Hello everyone, welcome to our October live session on what if scenarios using Power BI. Before we jump into the actual proceedings of the live stream, just tell me in the chat if you can hear me loud and clear. I could see that we already have quite a few people logged in, so I'm assuming there is no technical difficulty getting onto the stream, but I just want to make sure that the audio is also clear. Awesome. I can see from your messages that the audio is extremely good and clear. We are now live, and I have got an exciting session planned for you today. This is going to be an epic deep dive into some of the advanced concepts of Power BI. And I'm a little rushed because I had a coffee emergency. Um, uh, some of you probably know this, but recently I celebrated a birthday. So my wife got me this fancy pants coffee machine for as the birthday gift, and I'm still learning how to use it. So I thought for the live stream today I'll make a coffee from the espresso machine downstairs. So I went there, and normally we'd make coffee for two people. So all the settings were programmed to have like grind the coffee for two people and then do all of this. So I just went and I pressed the button, and then I sort of noticed that it was just grinding and grinding. I'm like, no, I don't need so much of caffeine because otherwise I'll be jumping around in the stream. So by the time I kind of cleaned it up and got my coffee, it was nearly late. Like I walked into the room and I saw that, oh, there's only 50 seconds left. Hopefully you are able to get a good drink and join the stream. Let's see who is here. Uh, so this is from Moise. He says, good morning from Southern California, Chedu, and thanks for responding to my email. Hey Moise, it's always good to hear. And Vinod says, belated birthday wishes. Thank you, Vinod. And there's quite a few of this in the chat window here on the upcoming Diwali festival. Diwali, for some of you who may not know, is like the biggest festival in the Indian festival calendar. So it's coming up in the first week of November, and yeah, happy Diwali to everybody who is watching the stream live or after the stream is done. So thank you so much, and you got some nice hellos from Bharat from New Jersey, and then Nick says, good evening from Cape Town. Didn't brush my hair as well to fit in without trainer. Well, I didn't brush my hair either. You can see my hair, it looks all over the place. And then this is from Amilcar. Greetings from El Salvador in Central America. Thank you, Amilcar, for joining. And we're already having some questions. Where is the file? The file is already added to the video description on the YouTube. If you go to YouTube and just expand the description of the video, you would see there's a link both for the blank data file as well as a completed demo file. But we will build the whole thing from scratch. If you want to follow along, you can definitely get that. All right. And I'm just gonna check a few things here, and everything looks good. So we are ready to roll. What we will do, this is probably, if this is your first time coming here on the stream, what's going to happen is when we start, I'll just do a very quick presentation on what is going to happen in the stream, because it's usually about 90 minutes. But most of the streams that I've been doing have been going on for 2 hours, so it's a long one. So I want to set a good agenda and make sure that you're getting maximum help and information that you are here for. So very short presentation to help us all come to the same page, and then we will get into a screen share kind of a presentation where I'll show my screen, I'll tell you I'll explain the concept of building what if parameters and scenario modeling using Power BI, share a full length example, and then the files are provided in the video description. Along way, you're more than welcome to ask questions, say hello messages or things and whatever you want. Got some nice messages here. Tej says Chandu Garu Ela Unnaru, which simply means how are you, Chandu? I'm doing great. I'm really doing awesome. I had a patchy sleep last night. Usually this happens every time I do a stream. Maybe I'm still nervous or excited for the stream because if I'm recording a video, I can do any number of takes until I get the right wording and the right emotion and everything. In the stream, I don't have choices. I just have so that's probably a little bit of that. I'll try to speak up a bit. I'm hearing some messages about low sound, but let's see. Wamo Tech says, hi from Somalia. I enjoy your videos and it's a pleasure to watch you train live. Thank you so much, Wamu, for coming onto the stream. There's a couple of questions here about is it gonna be recorded? While it is technically recorded by YouTube, most of the time what happens is after the stream finishes, maybe about a week or 10 days into the stream's journey, I make the video unlisted. This is just to ensure that you are as committed to this as I am and you all watch together and learn together, and then that's the experience. So that's, and sometimes I take the ideas from the stream and make a smaller video on the channel. So yeah, technically recorded, but I would recommend that you stick around and watch it as much as possible. All right, let's start the presentation. In fact, for the presentation, I had the craziest thought. I thought I won't do a actual presentation. I'll just do like explanation. But then when I woke up in the morning today, I was like, that's not a very good idea because there's some things that I need to spell out, and it might not be very well done if I just talk. So I kind of haphazardly put together a small presentation just to guide us through rest of the process for now. I'll just go through that. We are already getting some questions. So there's a question from Krishna and others. And what I recommend is, while you're more than welcome to ask questions, please hold off the questions until we get into the topic, so that the questions can be directed within the topic space that we have. The topic for today is what if scenario modeling with Power BI. And this is going to be slightly advanced topic. So if you have never done any Power BI stuff before, you might find certain things a little bit too much, like, oh, what's going on here? But hopefully, if you have been using Power BI for a while, then you will find a lot of what I'm presenting today is of extremely high value to you, and you can just take it from that level there. All right, let's just add my screen here, and then we will. So I'm just gonna we got some Atul, this message is funny. He says, please focus on relationship. I assume you're talking about like relationship in the family, or are you talking about the relationships between tables and Power BI? But it felt funny reading that all of a sudden. All right. You did see a sneak peek of what is it that we are gonna build. This is what it looks like. It is kind of like an extra page on top of our existing report. So this will give you a scenario modeling of what happens to our profitability and sales and costs and units as we negotiate a better agreement with our customers or or vendors or bring down our costs. So that's the kind of modeling that we would be doing. But let's just quickly let me present our agenda for the day. What if analysis with Power BI. We're going to be making this. This is something that I just showed you. It's a scenario model where we are able to tweak some of the things in our business. Like we can decide that our price will go up by 5%, and then we can see the impact on total sales or total profit or etc. We could also see what happens if we bring down the cost by 5% or somehow convince our customers to purchase more chocolates. This is all for our awesome chocolates company, by the way. What would happen with all of these, how all of them together interplay, and how our profit can go from 23.7% to 34.9%. So that's really what we are doing. The first thing that I will address is what if. I'll do a quick demo in Power BI so that you can understand how this will look, what happens when you set up a what if model. And we'll also talk a little bit about the concept of disconnected tables. Usually when we are building stuff within Power BI or data modeling, we're always talking about how things connect to each other. But for what if modeling to work, you need a disconnected table. So how does this work? How to bring that in, that concept. And then we'll just build some calculations and DAX. We'll build this thing. I'll take your questions so that you can, if you have any questions along the way, you'll be like, oh, what did we create here, or how did we get there? I'll help you with that. Before we begin, I just want to say 3 things about the downloads, questions, and supers. There is a blank data file in the video description for this page. If you are watching it on YouTube, just go to the video description, expand it, and you will be able to see. If you have logged on to the stream 30 minutes before I actually started the stream, like you're waiting there, you just opened the page and you left and did some other work, then you may have to refresh the page. Otherwise it should be there. I've also put a completed demo file for you to get a sample of what is it that we are creating. Feel free to use that, and in the stream I'll build the whole thing from scratch anyway. And if you have any question, please post it in the chat window. You're more than welcome to ask questions. Please start your questions with Q. You can say anything else in the chat window. You can say hello. You can talk about the stream or your experiences and all of that. That is fine. But questions, put a Q at the beginning, and do not repeat your questions. I do get a lot of questions in the live stream, especially when I say ask questions, people ask a lot. So it gets, if you keep asking the same question, it gets repetitive, and I'll have to put you in the bin for the 60 seconds. And that's pretty much it. And of course, stay on the topic. The topic is what if modeling with Power BI. So I would like to help you maximum on that topic for the day. You can ask general Power BI questions, but I'll try to answer them at the end of the stream if I still have the time and energy and people are keen to hear me at that point. If you want to support the stream, you can send me a super chat or a sticker. This again, it's not necessary. What I'm doing, I just enjoy doing this, so I do it. But if you would like to support, that's now. Let's start the thing with a dad joke. Now, normally I have dad jokes as part of my presentation, but I thought we need to take it up to the next level. So this time I'm gonna try a grand dad joke. Are you ready for this? Okay. So there is this grandpa, and he's really old, and he needs a cane whenever he needs to go for a walk or something. So one day he got up from the bed, and then he took out his favorite cane, and then noticed that the cane is broken. Like probably he was putting too much pressure on it when he's walking or whatever. So the cane is now broken. What do you call this? It's called worst cane scenario. Well enough. I'll get into the presentation now. All right. So as I said, this is what we are doing here. I'll do a quick demo and then we will go kind of like rewind all the way back to a blank file and then just build it. So right now our position looks like this. We are making $4.3 million of chocolate sales. 4.3 is our total cost and $5.6 million of total sales and 23% of profit. What happens if I can change my price by, let's say, 10%, assuming everything else stays the same? So we slide this down, you can see that immediately our sales would go up to $6.6 million and our profit improves. But obviously, if you increase the price, maybe customers are not happy purchasing same amount. So maybe they will purchase 3% less. So we'll adjust this, our profit comes down. Likewise, because we are charging higher price, maybe our partners at the back end, they also want a little bit more cost. So our costs also go up by, they can only go down, they can't really go up. So our costs remain unchanged, our profitability is here. So this is the kind of modeling that we are building, where normally a traditional measure is just calculated as of that. Whereas with Whatif modeling, you ask a question like, what if we change this? How is that going to impact? So that's the kind of thing that we are going to do. So for now, I'm going to open a blank file which has my model already built in. My model as in data model and tables and everything is loaded. And here we will demonstrate how to get started with this kind of a thing. I'll do a very simple demo first, and then we will build our profitability model from there on. Although I did say blank file, this is actually a file that I used in my previous live stream. I did a live stream a couple of months ago on how to use Power BI. So this is the file from there, and we will use that. Let me just have a quick read through on the comments to make sure that I'm not missing anything important, and then we will go. All right, so we got quite a few hellos and things like that, but no questions or no. I mean, we have not done anything technical, so I'm not assuming there will be questions yet. But I'm just gonna address some of the things. I think so. Every now and then, people who come to the stream, they'll say either the video quality is not good or there is a lag or something, and this is bound to happen. But what you could do at your end is, when you go to YouTube and you're watching the video, there should be like a dot 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 or a settings icon there, and you can use that to adjust your resolution. So set it to the higher level possible. I'm streaming at 720p, so if you set it at that level, you should be able to see the stream in a good quality. Obviously, you need a stable, good broadband internet connectivity to be able to enjoy the stream. But I thought, I'll just say that out there. And this is Mad Dog. Hello from Lebanon. Is this session recorded? Again, I did answer this earlier. The session is kind of recorded. It is on YouTube, but it will not be there forever online. After some time, I will take it out and I'll replace it with a smaller video or something like that on the topic if there is enough interest. But yeah, if you have set aside time to learn, please sit and learn. This way you will get it all done, and any questions you have, you can ask them live and I can answer them right away. Okay, so we already have our blank not technically blank, a model that is already built that is showing some information. Okay, the concept here is you can use whatever I'm teaching on your existing Power BI reports and models. So I'm starting with the report that is already there. It tells me what is happening to our sales. We have already built this from scratch in a previous live stream. So if you're completely new to Power BI, then as I said, this session is not really for you. But if you've been using, you can kind of see that, oh, this is some report. There is some tables, some values are there. Now let's understand what is Whatif modeling. So I'll add a blank page here. I'll just show you from scratch what it looks like. If you go to the insert ribbon, we go to the modeling one, you will see that there is a new parameter option here. You may have noticed this previously, or you may never have observed it, but this is the gateway into getting into that Whatif modeling. So we'll add a new parameter. We'll just see what happens with this. So we'll add one. For now, this parameter, we can just put it by default like everything, but we'll make it a little bit more objective. So we'll say this parameter will give us a choice to tweak our pricing. So we sell a bunch of different chocolates to customers, and that's how we make our money. And across the board for all of these chocolates, what if I can increase the price from, let's say, negative 10% to positive 10%? So we are able to tweak the price. Imagine, it's an old style radio and there is a knob that you can adjust to increase the volume or decrease the volume. That's what we are doing here. The product price can be decreased or increased by 10%. So we'll call this as price change. So that's my name of the parameter. Again, you can name it whatever you want. There is only three styles of data types you can have. You can have a whole number, a decimal number, and a fixed decimal number. For the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to leave it as whole number and then say -10 to 10. What this means is the price can go from negative 10 to positive 10. And when we treat this, we'll treat that output as a percentage. Okay. You could also put it into decimal number and then just put negative 0.1 and positive 0.1, which is same as negative 10% and positive 10%. But I feel happy dealing with whole numbers. So we'll just do negative 10 max to 10. Increment and default are not really necessary, but we'll just put default as 0. What this means is, by default, if nothing is selected, that means our price remains unchanged. Okay. Again, all of this will be fairly confusing the very first time you do it. You will not even see the result. So you'll be like, oh, what am I doing? Where does this really play? So just kind of follow along for now. But once we have that on the screen, then you will be able to understand it better. So we'll click OK. We get a slider here which says price change and a slider. Naturally, this slider will take you from negative 10 to positive 10. So if you keep moving this, the value changes. Okay. Not only this gets added, you will also have a new table introduced into the model. This is called price change. Okay. I'm just going to navigate here to my price change model. And you can see that this price change table has values from negative 10 to positive 10. One per row for all the values between negative 10 to positive 10. I'm just going to see if anybody has having any questions. Ashwin asks, can you stream at a 1080p? Unfortunately, no, I don't want to do it because it gets too cloggy for my internet connectivity, and I don't think there is any extra benefit from 720 to 1080. But we'll see. Atul says cannot see the numbers, but there is nothing new here. If you are just hearing me say, all we are doing is the numbers go from -10 to +10. So that's what it is. And you can see that in fact you don't even need the what if parameter. You can generate this as a table using the table formula, generate series -10 to +10 1. But what if parameter does is it will kind of package everything in one place so that you have the the data, the slider, and the harvesting measures all created in one go. Anyhow, we'll go back here. What I'll do is I'll turn off my face so that there is more real estate given to the Power BI, and then we will go and examine this. So we got our price change, which is going from -10 to +10 using a slider. Okay, so you can pick any value through the slider, and whatever you are picking, you're seeing there. But this table also adds a measure for you. So it's called price change value. Power BI generates that measure as part of the process when you click on the what if parameter. So I'm just going to add a card here to visualize that. So that measure price change value, you can see the definition here. It is a selected value type of a measure, which will tell you what is being selected by the slider. So if I go like this, whatever that is, it's -5, 6, 10. Again, nothing mysterious, but you now have a mechanism to change the value, as well as you have a mechanism to see what value is picked as a measure. Okay, so given these two things, and assuming everything else stays the same in the world we are living in, we are living in this chocolate selling business, we are assuming that there is no other changes. Only change that we are doing to the system is we are increasing the price by 3% or 7%. What would that do to our overall sales? So let's say we are selling $100 worth of chocolate, and now I change the price of my chocolate by 3%. So the price is 3% more. Then naturally our sales would be $103, right? Assuming everything else stays the same. So that's how I can use this information to take my current sales and forecast what would be the future sales if this change were to happen. Okay, again, this is somewhat naive because when you do what if modeling, you control a few things, but you also assume that there are a lot of other things that cannot be controlled, so we will just assume they are not changing. But as you get more and more complicated into these modelings, you will be able to build even more complex scenarios where you take input from other things that could change and all of that. But for the time being, we'll be very, very simplistic. So here I got it within my sales table. I have a total sales measure. So I'm gonna insert that as a card. We'll just see what our total sales is. Currently we are selling $5.6 million. Okay, so if the price goes up by 3%, what would our total sales be? That's the question that we want to ask. So we can add a new measure. This measure, we will call it as total sales new. Okay, assuming everything else stays the same, then 5.6 would be 5.6 plus 3% of it. That's what it will be. So we can take the current total sales star 1 plus our price change is maintained by the price change value measure. So value will be a whole number between -10 to +10. So it'll always be 1, 2, 3, -6, -4 like that. So whatever that value is, we need to divide that with 100 to get it into the percentage notation. And this is how we can take the existing sales and bump it up by 3%. So this is my current sales. Control C, Control V. We'll add a new thing here. And here I'm just going to put total sales new. And We'll just apply some dollar formatting there. So because of rounding, we are not able to clearly see. So I'm just going to adjust some of these things. So from 5.618 million, we would go to 5.787 million if our price goes up by 3%, assuming everything else stays the same. Okay. And I can now kind of play with this and then see what happens to my new sales. So this is my new sales. So I'll just put some background color there so that you can focus on that. We will add a different color there. So this is my current, that's my new situation, and I can see what happens. All the way at this end, we would have gone up to 6.1 million. All the way at that, we would have gone down to 5.05 million. So Venkatesh asks this question, how this price change pullout visual has appeared direct from new parameter. That's what Power BI does when you add a what if parameter. Once you finish that screen, it will automatically add the slider. It will automatically set up the price change table, and then it will also automatically add the price change value measure to the model. So the model has this measure. This card is something that I manually added, but that slider thing was automatically added by Power BI. Okay, so that's the thing with that. All right, so we got our total sales new, which is a variation of the sales figure increasing or decreasing by price change. Now, this is a very simple what if model where all we are saying is if the price changes, then this is what is going to happen. But in real world, things can get a little bit more muddy and complicated. So let me draw something for you to help you understand what could happen in the real world. I'm just gonna get my sketch pens. Right. As I said, this particular model, the one that I'm showing on the screen, well, right now it's not being shown up, but whatever I showed earlier is from a chocolate sales company. So I'll just show you the data model for that here. There's more tables there, but it's basically at a high level, this is how it looks like. We got sales from product and they go to the customers. Now, within the product table, we maintain the price of each product. And in the sales transaction table, we know how many boxes are sold. And in the product table, we know the price per the box. Okay. So the information like the price change, even though we are kind of being very naive with that, like if you go it up by 10%, then it will go by 10%. The price change would actually happen in the product table against each product. And then it will come here. There's a number of boxes bought in each transaction, and that needs to take care of that. So now let's take it up a new level, and then let's imagine what would happen if you want to set up a situation where the parameters that you control are not only the price change but also the quantity change. So we want to say, oh, what if the price goes up by 5% and the quantity goes down by 2%? What could happen then? How would the sales look like? In this case, we can't directly do a multiplication like the way we have done there, because each product is bought a different number of units. So it will get into a little bit more complicated nature of calculation. But essentially there will be interplay of parameters, right? If the price goes up and the units goes down, then what could happen to my sales, what would happen to my profitability, all of that we will calculate. This will give us a chance to play a little bit more with the what if parameters, and maybe answer some of the questions that you might be having, like, oh, what happened there. You'll see all of that clarified one way or another. Let me read through some of these questions. So Atul says, I think same option in Excel as well. What if both are same? They're kind of same philosophy, because Excel also has what if analysis and scenario modeling. But Power BI, at least at one level, it kind of greatly simplifies it, but it offers a different take on it, because within Power BI, the within Excel, if you have a scenario input value, then what would happen is you're just putting the input value in a cell, and everything else is feeding off that cell to drive the output calculation. So you say price change is negative 10%, you would put it in the cell, or you link it to a form control or something. You're putting it there, and then it will go and change the values. Within Power BI, it is a little bit more tricky. So here in Power BI, what we are doing is, this slider is the input. There is no other place in the model where this current value is maintained, but that slider is only linked to this page. Okay, so this page, it is saying -6. I could have another page where I can put a similar slider. I'm just looking for my, that's the one. So I can put another slider here and then change it, and this could be -3, and I can have my cards here for total sales, and then total sales new. So these numbers react to this slicer setting, which is 5.618 and 5.674, whereas here this is actually reacting to -6 setting. So each page has its own version of the parameter value in a way, because the parameter value is only available if there is a slider and it has a value. Otherwise, what would happen is, if you take this out and delete, then it will default to the default value that you mentioned in the, when you create the what if scenario, what if thing, we said the default is 0, so it will default to 0. Only when there is a slider available, then there is actually a meaning to that. So in a way, it's similar to Excel, but also a little bit different. And Bader says, why did you add 1 to your formula? Because we want the new sales to be 3% more or 6% less than the previous one. So that's why we only have the value of that -6 or +3, but we need to go and take that from there. So that's where all we are doing is total sales times 1 plus this. This is how you calculate percentage change in business settings normally. So 1 means keep the original value, and then plus whatever this value divided by 10, you multiply, so you increase that. So if you study that a little bit more closely, you will understand exactly what's happening there. All right, let's now that we kind of got a glimpse of what is happening with the scenarios, I'll just add one more page. I'm gonna change the layout to this so that there is full screen is given to Power BI, and let's go and now start thinking about building that profit model. So I'll switch back to my old, this one. This is what we want to create. We got our information here, and if we change these things, how will that look like in future? So that's what we want to create. So there's going to be 3 parameters. Our first parameter is price change, second parameter is cost change, and the third parameter is units change. We're changing everything in the business. What if the price could go up or down? What if the cost could change in either direction? And what if the units could change in either direction? So let's implement that. We will add modeling Whatif parameter. We already have a price change parameter, so all we need is 2 more parameters, one for the cost and another for the units. So we'll just say cost change, and in my demo file I put the cost change, like the cost could only go down or it will stay the same. This is because in many business settings that is more likely, like you will negotiate for the costs to go down. If the cost is going up, it's not something that you are controlling, it's the provider who is controlling it. You almost never voluntarily go up to your vendors or your suppliers and then say, can I give you 3% more for your product? You might say that, but you're not likely to say that. That's not something that you decide. Instead, what you as a business person would decide is, can I pay you less for the goods that you're selling me? Because that'll give you more profit, right? So I thought that's more realistic. So we could say cost could go from minimum of minimum of -10 to maximum of 0. So that means cost can only go down. But again, you can disagree and you can change this to 10 and that will be fine. So if you're following along, feel free to experiment there. So we'll say this, and the default is 0, and we will add that as a Whatif parameter. Notice that when you add, screen will flicker, it will add 2 tables. It will add the table cost change, and it will also add a slicer for you to adjust that value on this page. Okay, so I can bring down the cost from -10 all the way to keep it unchanged. Let's add the next parameter as well. This one is my units change. So we can do, with a little bit of marketing and advertisement and offers and whatnot, we could increase our sales from -10 to +10 number of units that customers are buying. So by tweaking our marketing settings, again, this can also be 0. Now as you are doing this, you will realize that while this is good, in many business situations, the scenarios or the parameters that you want to model are not always numbers. They may be something else, like maybe there's a date related parameter that you want to set up, or maybe you want to choose from one of the 5 or 6 different text values or something else like that. So the built-in Whatif parameter has a limitation that it will only allow you to deal with numbers. If you want to do something else that is a bit more complicated, then you will have to implement it on your own and bring in to the model. The concept is similar. You will have to create the tables, make a slicer or selection mechanism, and a harvester measure. But once all of those are there, then you will be able to work on it. So we'll click OK. We'll add this thing here. So we got our cost change and units change. And I'm just gonna copy my price change, Control C, paste it here. I don't want to synchronize anything. So we got 3 different controls that we can now tweak. I'll just place them in the center of the page like that. So I can adjust my price, I can adjust my cost, and I can adjust my total units. So all of these we can tweak. So for example, what would happen if my price goes up by 7% and the costs go down by 5%, and we are somehow able to still sell 2% more? Maybe we did a bit of better marketing or whatever. So all of this I want to now know what would the final impact on my total sales would be, what would be the impact on my cost, what would be the impact on my profit, units, etc. And visualize that so that then I can provide a before and after kind of a view similar to what we have here in my completed file. So this is really our goal. We want to create something like this. Let's let me see through some of these questions. Angura says, can we have only slider with the parameter? Can we change it to a drop down with selection? You can do whatever you want. Hopefully, so if you have a slider and you don't like that kind of bulky slider thing on your visuals, you can just click on that little arrow on the corner and change it to drop down, and it will be like this, and then you can just pick a price change from there. I like the slider because it gives you a little bit of that immediate gratification that you're changing and controlling things in some magical way, and it feels more natural for these kind of things. Roxanne says, how can you change a parameter after it has already been created? Example, data type was whole number and do you want to change it to decimal? So we will have to try this. Essentially, I could be wrong, but my understanding is when you click on new parameter, it is basically a shortcut for the three things that Power BI is doing, which you can also manually do all the three steps. One is it is generating the table. The second thing is it is then adding a slider. And then the third thing is it is also adding a measure to tell you what is the value of the slider. So that's really what is happening. It's kind of like, think of it like it has a macro behind which is doing all the three things one after another and saving you time, whereas you could do all those three things yourself manually as well. So if you were to let's say you made a mistake and you want to change, I'm not quite familiar with the syntax of generate series, to be honest, but let's say we changed our mind. We now think, oh, negative 10 to positive 10 is too small. The price can go from negative 10 to positive 20. You can put this thing and press enter and it will change. You can see that now our price change can go all the way from negative 10 to positive 20. It will impact every page as well, because in reality what it is doing is it's changing the table and adding more rows here. So now it goes up all the way to 20. But if you want to add decimal points or something, I don't really know the actual syntax of this to tell you, but what you could do is you could kind of create a parameter and learn it yourself, see what formula it generates and change the formula from there. So that is what you could do. Mihir says, this is brilliant. First time I'm tuning in. Thank you, Chandu, for this. Keep doing this often. You're welcome, Mihir. I do live streams on every last Friday of every month. I may not be doing one in November or even December, simply because there's a lot of holidays going on in that time period. But in November, I might be doing a generic Q&A type of live stream just to answer your questions on Excel and Power BI, or maybe one of those platforms. I'll test and see I'll ask my community what they want, and then I'll do it like that. In December, in all likelihood, I won't be doing a live stream because it's too close to Christmas and I would like to just spend the time with my family. But I'll probably come back next year and I'll be doing live streams in the last Friday of the month. At least that's what I've been doing all this year, and I'll try to do that next year as well. I enjoy this. It's quite fun talking live and sharing something like this. All right, there's some other questions there, but I'll address them later. Some people are still asking where is the file, or can we have this demo with data. um, the files are there, in the video description. Feel free to download. There's a demo, and whatever I'm showing is with data only. So hopefully that is making sense. All right. Let's now that these three things are added, on one hand we would like to show what was the before situation, so that will go here, and on this side of the screen we will show what is the after situation. Now before information is already there because you can use it for your existing reports and models. So in your reports you might already have some measures, so whatever is the before, that will just go here, and whatever visuals you want you can put. I'm keeping it simple with card visuals, so you can add a card visual and then just show total sales, another card visual, and then show total cost, and then one more card visual and then show total profit. In my actual demo file I have got few more things there, but because the process is largely similar, I'm not going to go and explain every little thing. Instead we'll focus more on explaining the things that are already there in a better way. So we got all of these three measures. This is my current situation. Currently we are selling $5.618 million. Our cost is 4.3, and hence our profit is $1.3 million. Now what would happen if my price goes up by 6%, but units also change by 2%, okay, and cost goes down by -5%? This will have impact on all over the thing. Some things, this thing would only impact my cost. If my cost goes down by 4%, obviously we'll spend 5% less, so our cost will only change. But changing these two would impact this, as well as overall profitability also changes. So it gets a little bit more technical and tricky, but nothing is hard. We just have to figure out the necessary logic and do it. So we'll address the easy one first, which is add a new measure, and then we will calculate total cost new. This would be current cost, so total cost existing value, times 1 plus cost change value divided by 100. Same syntax, same pattern as earlier. So you notice that once you understand the concept, you can then easily apply it in multiple situations because the pattern is more or less similar, with changes where you are doing it by percentage. So we can then add a card visual here, which will tell me what the new cost is going to look like. So if you're currently spending 4.3 million and your cost comes down by 5%, then your new cost would be 4.07. Again, nothing super exciting or rocket science there. All we are doing is a simple arithmetic multiplication, but it will give you, especially when you are doing this sort of reporting and presenting it to stakeholders, and then they are asking, oh, what if this changes, what if that changes? This adds a very powerful storytelling dynamic, because everything is interactive in Power BI. You can build it, you can send it, and they can play with that, and they can decide the optimal combination of things that will work for the business. So this is a question Vinod is asking, and I didn't actually explicitly say it, but maybe I should have, so I'm going to address this. When we create a new parameter, how does Power BI know that which field we are actually pointing to, and in how is this relationships or maintained? This is the key concept. I didn't explicitly state it, but I did mention it a few times anyway. Is, I'm just gonna zoom down this. These are my generated tables. Okay, hopefully you can see it all there. This is my current model, this set of area: sales, products, people, and locations. This is my existing model. These tables, price change, cost change, and unit change, are the tables that are introduced by the what if parameter button. So when you clicked on that, these new three tables were added. Notice that there is no line connecting those three tables with anything else in the model. That's the concept of disconnected table. A disconnected table just exists in the model to support certain things in the output layer. So here in the output layer, because we had that slider and we would like to be able to select something, we need a table. So hence we introduced the price change table. Same with cost change, same with unit change. We didn't deliberately introduce it. When you clicked the button, all of these things happened automatically. But you never connect these tables with the rest of the model. They just stay disconnected. And the only way you can use a disconnected table is by having some sort of selection, a slicer or a slider or some other mechanism like a drill through or whatever, and only then it will make sense, because otherwise what happens is Power BI will see all of the rows in the table, so none of your measures can work, etc. So that is why uh, the key background concept behind what if parameters is the disconnected table thing. Again, if you know what this is, then it's fine, but if you're not familiar with none of this terminology, it doesn't really mean what they're called. They could be called just another table in the model. Because there is no line, we simply call them as disconnected tables. And it is not even necessary to use that term to build it, because we have already been able to build it without once using that word disconnected table. But sometimes when you go to here, you'll be like, oh, these things are there, what are they doing? Then you will understand they're not connected with anything else. All right. There's some other questions about uh, things like this, where someone is asking, can we create a WhatsApp group or something like that? Unfortunately, no, I'm not going to create any WhatsApp group. We have our YouTube community, and I'm not able to spend more time answering questions in other channels as well. But feel free to post a comment here, and I'm glad to help whenever I can. Okay, moving on, we got our cost thing. Cost was fairly straightforward. You change the cost down by 5% per product, then your total cost is going to come down. But when it comes to total sales, because now there's two things impacting it, we need to think a little bit clear about how to get my total sales. So for that, we need to go here and understand really how the sales figure itself is generated. So I'm going to look at this column. Notice that the sales amount is calculated by taking the number of boxes that we are selling. So boxes times related product price per box. So in the transaction table, we don't really know how much money is coming. All we know is that we are selling 400 boxes or 600 boxes. But then we take that, we then follow the thread to the product table to see that, oh, 400 boxes of almond chocolate, each for $3. So then the total value is $1,200. So that's how we are calculating the total sales for that particular row. And then we repeat the process, and then we calculate the overall total as sum of that column. So this is how that is happening. Now, because we are changing two things here, we are changing what could happen to the boxes. Like we're saying, I can change how many boxes I'm selling by 2% with marketing. So if I do an advertisement offer, we are assuming that that will be effective and we will sell 3% more or 2% more. And then we are also increasing the price per box. So two different things we are changing, but they are changing at different places. Units will change here in the boxes column, whereas the price will change here, price per box column. So two different places. This opens up a challenge for us to calculate how new sales will be. I'll show you the measure, and then if you have questions, I will explain. I'll try to explain it anyway, but if you have more questions, then I'll try to explain it more. So we'll write the measure. This is the first. I mean, I do write these kind of measures, but it's yesterday when I was trying to figure it out, it was fun challenge. So total sales new. So the total sales new is, we kind of need to introduce another sales column here and then basically add it up. That's what we are doing. This is where you will use an iterator function like sumx, which is sum of an operation done on each row in the table. So sumx on the sales table, for each row within the table, we want to evaluate the expression. The expression would be, take the boxes of the table, sales boxes, and then first increase the number of boxes by 1 plus units change value divided by 100, because we are saying we could be selling 3% more boxes or 10% less boxes. So whatever that value is, change it by that. And then once this new number of boxes is calculated, this should be multiplied with related product price per box, which in turn is going up by 1 plus price change value divided by 100. Okay, so it's a sumx operation, which will basically, you won't introduce the calculated column here or anything. It all happens in the mind of Power BI, Power Pivot, and it will calculate the total, and then it will just get that final result as this. If you are not able to decipher this kind of thing and you're like, oh, this looks too complicated, then you don't need to beat yourself up. Sumx is not something that you can easily understand in the first few months or weeks or sometimes even years of using Power Pivot. So just take it slow and eventually things will work. Hopefully we haven't made any mistake. Oh, it already exists, so we will say this is new too. And then let's just see if this is giving you correct result, and then I'll explain more. Control C, Control V. So it says my new sales would be $6 million if my price goes up by 6 and units goes by 2. So I'm just gonna bring everything down to 0. I expect the values to be same. Yeah, 61862, so that makes sense. If only this changes, then that needs to be about, yeah, that makes sense. So we'll put it 5%, and then now you can see the interplay of these two things together changing that. So let's just open this measure here, and let me quickly explain this once again. So our total sales is number of boxes times price per box for each row, and then total of that. Now at each row level we could add a column and do it, but when you have these kind of parameters and everything, you can't really add a column to the table, because the parameter value is only available in the context of a page. It's not available back in the table. So this is something that you need to be doing right here as a measure, not as an added column or anything. And when you are doing it here, the formula that we use is, because we want to do an operation for each row on the table and then add it up, sumx is the formula that you would use. What sumx does is it sums up whatever that x value is for the entire table. So x is the expression. So it goes to the sales table. For each row it will evaluate this expression, which is, it takes the boxes value of the row, multiplies that with 1 plus percentage change in the boxes, which is given by that slider. And then once the new boxes are there, then it will add the related price per box from the products table, and then also increase the price by this percent. So It's kind of like a multiplication all the way through, but we will have to do it like this. So that's the measure. Let's just see if any questions are there. Sharik asks, sir, would you like to explain relationship, because sometimes it is confusing. Now, all I can make is a pun on relationship, which is relationships are always confusing. But because in this session we are not even talking about relationships, it is kind of tricky for me to jump into that topic all of a sudden. So what I recommend is, when you finish the stream, just expand the video description. There is actually a another video that I did. It's exactly like this live stream, but 2 months back, 3 months back, we did a live stream on how to get started with Power BI. So that would be a good place for you to go and have a spend some time watching that to understand. There is also another video on my channel that talks about understanding various business intelligence and data modeling jargon. So that is another place where I explain how star schema works and what is relationship, what are different types of tables and everything in simple terms. So definitely check that out. I'll add a link to that later on when I get some time. Yeah. Niche Mastery says, by sales boxes you're referring to sold units. Yeah, it is. It's kind of confusing because I think I was not careful with these names when I was creating them. But boxes is name units. But when we are creating our what if parameter, we said units instead of boxes. So, but they are synonyms. Number of boxes is number of units. Roxanne says, is SumX same as Excel's sum product? It kind of is. They are technically similar, but I would say it is best to not compare with anything in Excel with Power Pivot or Power BI. This will save you a lot of time down the stream, especially if you are learning Power BI. Think of Power BI as a completely different thing, Power Pivot and DAX as a completely different language that kind of looks and feels similar to what Excel is, because they share the similar syntax of open bracket, close bracket, and functional style of language, but they are different things. So approach them differently. You might be tempted to think of some product and some X as similar, but they are a different thing altogether in more ways than less. So if it helps you understand better, then maybe yes, but I made the same mistake, so that's why I'm telling you. I have been learning Power Pivot and DAX for almost around 10 years now. So in the first 3-4 years of my DAX journey, I kept making the same mistake of comparing whatever I'm learning in Power Pivot and DAX with what I already know in Excel. So then I would understand them better for a bit, and then I'll come to a place where I'll be like, oh wait a sec, this makes no sense at all. And that gave me a lot of frustration, and I had to go back and forth and relearn a lot of things, which made it so much more harder for me, both as a consultant and a person, as well as a trainer, right? Because I'm learning and I also teach. That's my profession. So when I am myself, I'm not clear about certain things, then I can't explain it to others. So now my advice is very simple. If you are learning it from scratch and you're a new learner, even if you have Excel background, always try to think of Power BI as a different thing that looks similar to Excel, but approach it differently. That will help you learn it faster and better. Amit Negi, he's please, you're asking a lot of things, but I don't really know what the question is. Obviously, the lessons will not be in Hindi because I don't want to limit it in one language. I'll just speak in English. I'm more comfortable with that. But if you have a question, post it. I think you are just posting some random comments, so it'll be helpful if you don't, if you stick to the topic and post a question. Anyhow, we now have created our total sales new measure, which is a SumX measure. Hopefully, this is the most complex measure that we are creating today, and in the cost as well. So now that we know what our new sales would be, what our new cost would be, I can calculate my new profit. So we'll click this total profit new, which is nothing but total sales new minus total cost new. Notice that I'm using new 2 rather than new, because the new one only pays attention to price change, but we have to incorporate unit change as well. So I've I've added a new measure with that. And then this would be that. We will add it here. So you can see that as you tweak this, how these numbers change. With a little bit of formatting, we can turn that into this. So there is literally no difference from here to there. All the concepts are similar. Only thing is I've shown the measures, few more things. So I got my cost, sales, profit, boxes sold, and profit percentage as well, which is all fairly straightforward to calculate. There is nothing complicated there. And then I put some boxes behind, different colored boxes, and colored the measures accordingly so that it looks a little pretty on the display side of things. But and then we can just tweak these things to see what would happen to my profitability. So this is where, going from that style of things where we are simply showing some information, we now go into a place where we are telling a story. We are saying, this is my previous state. If I change things, then this is where we will end up with, and we can provide all of that. So Kim asks, when is it better to use a measure versus a calculated field? And this is a question that not just Kim is asking. I got an email from another reader as well, and many times I hear this kind of a question: when to use a measure, when to use a column. And sometimes it also feels like there is no clear line, like on this side of the line you are in this country, on this side of the line you're on that country. There's a lot of blurring going on. So here is a simple rule, and we will, because DAX is a complicated language, even the simple rules will be eventually broken down the line. So you'll come to a place where you'll have to break these rules, but we can start with a simple rule, and then we'll see where that will take us. So you will create a measure if you want to see some sort of an output on the screen, because on the screen everything that you see is kind of like a measure, excluding text boxes and shapes and stuff like that. Everything else has to be a measure. So I'll open this report here and you'll quickly understand what I mean. So in this report, all the numbers, all the graphs, everything is just coming as a result of a measure, either explicit or implicit. Most of them are explicit. That means I have written the logic of DAX to produce the values, but certain things would be implicit. Whatever may be the case, everything that is shown on the screen is a measure, excluding the text boxes and the shapes and some icons and stuff like that. So if you want to show something on the screen, you need to have a mechanism to get it on the screen, and that mechanism is measure. Okay, the measure can be written by you, or you can leave it to Power BI to figure it out. In most cases, it will be defaulted to some of the values, or average or count or unique count or whatever. So you can use the default settings, or you can customize and you can take a little bit control over this and complicate the matters yourself. Anything you want to show on the screen, it goes here as a measure. When would you use a column then? Well, you would add a column to the tables, because the columns, calculated columns, are added to the table. They're not added to the screen, they're added to the data model table, and they're kept there even when you are not displaying anything on the screen. So there is a distinction, right? If you want to show something on the screen, you use a measure. But if you need something on the table all the time for certain purpose, then you would add a column. Okay, so this is the simple rule. Now you can kind of test that, and every time the test passes, do I need this value to be shown on the screen, or does it need to go on the table? Whichever way the test passes, you can then decide automatically. But there will be situations where the test can be true for both of them, in which case what would you do? Okay, so the easy way out in that situations is where you need a value both on the screen as well as in the table for whatever reasons, is you will try to do the easiest thing for you as a developer in your early stages of DAX. Okay, it gets a little more complicated. At the early stages of your journey, you will try to do whatever is easy for you. If you think putting it here is easy, you'll do it there. If you think putting it in a measure is easy, you'll do it. But as you get more complicated and you start building models that can go into gigabytes and billions of rows and all of that, every little decision you make will have a performance impact. So for smaller data sets, simple things, experiments, it doesn't really matter which way you go, everything will be fine. But as you get into large scale models and stuff like that, all the decisions you make will have considerable impact. No matter which way you go, you will have hard choices. So your choices and everything will need to be more nuanced, and you will have to do a bit of research and all of that. Assuming you are managing such large models, you wouldn't be even watching my channel. You will already know all the things that I'm talking about. So yeah, whatever I'm gonna say is not relevant for you. So that's the simple rule. I hope that is helpful. I plan to add a video as well around this topic where I'll simply answer the question when to use a measure, when to use a model, calculated column. So hopefully that will give you that clarity. All right, let's see what other questions are there. So Manoj Kumar asks, this is an interesting question. Can we use a target profit to get ideal values change in price or cost? So this is where we are going from what if to kind of like a reverse, right? So we're not asking the question, what if my price changes, what would the profit be? Instead, what you're asking is, what is the input that I need if I want this particular profit? Now, those kind of things, again, while Power BI might be able to do, it's not the place for Power BI. You you can do it, and probably they will add more stuff in visuals and things like that that will make this kind of thing simple. I wouldn't really try to do such modeling in Power BI. So far, my go-to choice for such kind of things is using Excel, and Excel has more complicated suite of applications, like you could use solver, etc., to figure out what would be the combination of price change and unit change that will give you a desired profitability, because there can be multiple combinations that will give you same profit. So you will need to set up a model and then do that. So normally I would do it in Excel. While it might be arithmetically possible to do such a thing in Power BI, I think the DAX required would get way too complicated, at least at this stages. The other option is, and this is probably way better and more fun, is you could run a Python script or an R script on the data model to answer questions like this, because for that kind of thing to happen, you need a little bit of programming side of things rather than the DAX kind of thing to efficiently do it. So you could consider using the Python visual and then invoking the Python script on the data model to give it an input like, I want profit of 50%. Can you tell me which combination of price and unit change will give me that? And then it should be able to do that. So Suresh asks, can we use what if analysis when we use direct query mode? This is an interesting question. I have not tried what if on the direct query mode. By definition, what a direct query means is that you are not having the model with you. You're subscribing to the model, and the model is push it to you, and then you just get it. Like everything that you do on the screen goes back and comes back, right? So naturally, within a direct query, the default way is that you cannot add anything more. You are just given that model and you will have to use it. But what if means that you are introducing a new table, because the moment you click on what if, you are introducing a new table. So if you are using a type of direct query, either direct query or I don't know if it's called composite or something, where you can have the direct query but you can also combine it with your other data, then you should be able to technically use what if. So I don't really have direct query access or anything, because I'm not working in any company. I'm just running my own business, and I don't really like have a warehouse or anything for my this kind of purposes. But if you have access to direct query, give it a try and let me know in the comments if you are able to add what if models there, and if not, what are the alternatives there. That will be interesting to learn. Okay. And Ashish says, sir, Power Query for beginners, please share information to learn. We're gonna because now I think we are getting into a little bit more specific things. I'm just gonna open my YouTube channel so that I can point to some videos that might be of help to you. So there's a lot of videos there, so it's tricky for me to. If you are looking for a complete beginner to advanced Power Query tutorial, this is the one to go. You can see this here on the screen. Power Query tutorial. What is it? How to use it? And 4 full-length examples. This video is about an hour and 24 minutes long, so it is a completely in-depth video, but it is not a live stream video like this. It is a recorded video, so there is no interruptions, nothing. It will be just from the start to end, just like knowledge transfer. So if you are looking to learn Power Query, and this is something that I highly recommend to everybody who is working in the data space in either Excel or Power BI, if you have time to learn just one thing, then learn Power Query. This will really change your life. So watch that video, even if it means setting aside some time early in the morning, late in the evening, whatever you do. Just watch it, practice it, and you will be fairly decent in Power Query. Power Query is a very technical language, and there's more that you could do. But in that video, I demonstrate a lot of depth and give you fairly practical, ready to use ideas for most everyday things. So check that out. If you want to learn Power Pivot just like that, then you can go to my past live streams. You just have to search it on YouTube, and it is called Getting Started with Power Pivot and DAX, 15 useful examples. So this one is streamed 5 months ago. As I said, every month, last Friday, I do a live stream. So each month I pick a different topic. The topic few months ago is Power Pivot. In fact, I did a similar topic on Power Query as well last month, but I think that video gives better value than this, because in live stream there is usually a lot of good content, but also people ask questions and there's interruptions and this and that, so it's not continuous flow. But yeah, and If you want to learn Power Pivot from scratch, Power BI from scratch, then this one is a good place to go. How to make a sales dashboard in 1 hour. Again, the video is 2 hours long because it's a live stream video. But in that video, I show people how to build this from a blank Power BI workbook. This is the reason why I started where that video left off, because most people watch the live stream every month. So I didn't want to spend time recreating this thing. I assumed that this is already there, and we went from there. So that's that. Lijo asks, sir, do you conduct coaching classes for Power BI? Yes, I do conduct classes on Power BI. I'm doing two different things right now. And I'll quickly open up my website so I can talk about them as well. So the first one is a self-paced online class. It's called Power BI Playdate. It is a class where I already built the whole thing and recorded it, and you can watch it anytime. So this is called Power BI Playdate. If you go to my website or if you search on internet for Power BI Playdate, you will come to this page. And here you can just read through, and if you want, you can sign up. Right now we are in the waiting list mode, but if you want to join, you can email me and then I'll offer you a backdoor entry into the program. So you can go and get into that. So that's Power BI Playdate. I'm also doing a 3-day live cohort on Power BI, and this is happening in the 3rd week of November. So if you have time and if you want to learn face to face, well, not face to face, it's happening online, but it's like this live stream, but fairly interactive, and it happens on 3 days, each day for 4 hours, and it'll go on. You can also check that program out. I'll just so it's a live cohort based Power BI training, and it is happening in the November 6th, 16th, 17th, and 18th of November, which will be different dates depending on where you live in. And we are nearly sold out for this program. So we already have more than 15 people signed up. So, and I'm not planning to take that many. So if you want to go for this, then you can again book the spot from that page. But in all likelihood, this might actually close in a couple more days, because we will get into overcapacity after that. So those are the two options, and of course there's quite a few free videos and demos and examples on the YouTube channel as well. All right, let's see what other questions. Will doing a what if analysis in Power BI impact the original structure of our source data? Will it add a new tables, columns? No, nothing. Whatever you do in Power BI, nothing will be added back to your source files. Whether you're doing the what if analysis or you're adding columns or whatever you're doing, everything is built into the model here. Your source files will remain unchanged. They will be just as they are. Mohammed says, I want to start my journey in data analysis. I have a plan on my mind, but I'm afraid following a track which may take longer or could be a wrong track. Would you advise? I could only say all the best, because you've not told me exactly what you are planning to do. Anything that you do, this is not relevant to data analysis. This is relevant to general, like pretty much everything in life. Most things in life, unless you experience firsthand and you go through the journey, you wouldn't really know. Like, being a husband or being a dad or living in a different country, none of these choices, no one has all the answers up front. So any career choice it's like that. The thing that we tend to overthink and end up not doing at all is, we think, if I do this, then I don't have the choice to do that, or if I do this, then all the other roads are blocked for me. That's not the case. So I'll tell you the example of my career. I didn't start as a data analyst or a data analysis person. I started working as a software developer. But after 1 year of working, I went and did some further studies, and then I got back into technology, but as a business analyst. And after working as a business analyst for some time, I realized that I'm using more and more Excel in my day to day life as a business analyst. So I thought, I'm enjoying this. I'm getting so much of fun and value out of this. Maybe I should talk about that. So that's how I jumped into data world. So it's not something that I planned and I spent all the time. Instead, I bumped into it. And after doing data analysis for some time, I then thought, it'll be fun to teach people. So that's why I got into teaching. So in our lifetime, we will have chances to do 10 or 20 things very well if you can only dedicate 3 to 5 years for each thing. So you're not making the ultimate choice of go down this path and I'll be there for next 30 years. Instead, think of it like this. Am I able to give it all and learn something super valuable and fun for the next 3 to 5 years? And if so, you do it. Same for my YouTube channel. I have my YouTube channel for more than 13 years now, but for the first 11 12 years, I would only post occasional videos, and it was always like a secondary thing for me. But last year, uh, maybe a little before that, I kind of made a mental resolution that I will learn how to use YouTube better. I will try to become a better YouTube person, and reach out to the community there. So now I am learning how to make better videos and reach out to the community, how to do the live streams, how to make videos, and all of that. So if you give time for anything, you can master the craft in a few years time. Don't expect any quick results, but if you are willing to put in that time, it'll definitely work. Hopefully that is helpful. I don't know. Sir, if I add new data to existing source file, would that auto refresh here? Yes, it will be. Maybe I don't have any new data. Normally I keep like a copy of data as well. But what I'll do is I'll open the Excel file and we will try to trigger some refresh and then see what that would do here. So here is my actual source data file. I put this file as well in the thing. And what I'm gonna do is, so this data goes back. So we have data from January to June. We could technically add July data, but I don't have July information. Instead, what I will do is I'll change some of these things. So you can see that the price per box and cost per box are maintained here. I'm gonna bump up the price of milk bars from 773 to 1290, and then 50% dark bites from 1152 to $14. Okay, we made two changes. Now naturally, this is at a backend level. We are not changing the parameter, we are changing in the file what the actual input price itself is. So this should change my current sales itself as well as my future sales. So we'll save this, close, come here, and then if you hit the refresh, this will do its thing. And that number is $5.8 million. So it's 5.8 here and 7 million now with our increased price change. So this is what happens. If anything changes in your database or your connected systems, all of that will trigger here as soon as you either refresh manually or set up an automatic refresh. Lirake says you're an inspiring teacher. Many thanks. Thank you so much, Lirake. I really appreciate that, and all the best to you. Sanat says, I've been following Chandu since 2010. Great work. Thank you, Sanat. It's always a pleasure talking to people who have been on this journey with me for quite a long time. Around 2010 is when I kind of really left my job and got on this journey of working on the website and sharing information with people. So it's always pleasure interacting with people who have been here on this path for such a long time. All right, I hope that is helpful. This particular stream is a bit shorter than the other ones because we are tackling a specific thing of what if analysis. Um, if you want to stick around and watch, I will spend next 5 minutes showing how to turn this page into that. Of course, this is all fairly cosmetic, so there is no um, like, if you can figure it out, then it's fine. You don't need to stay back and watch. But I thought many of us are not familiar with those things, so I'll show you very quickly how I took this and turned it into that. That will be good. um, so I'll go. The thing is, I wanted to show before, change, after. So usually that's a very good story to tell. Like, most stories will have a pattern. So one pattern that we follow in storytelling is what is it like now, what happened, and what is the future looking like. So that's a classic story. So that's how that page is structured. So what is it now, what we are changing, what's going to happen in future. Because there are three layers, three different colors. Initially I thought we could have three colors, but that was looking too busy, so I put two colors on both sides, and the middle one is a different color. So how to get that kind of a color? You can insert a shape and a rectangle, and just place the rectangle there and adjust it. Now when you are sizing these rectangles, naturally you want to have some sort of a symmetry in the report. So the three boxes need to be equally sized. So what should be the size of this? So this was a bit tricky, but eventually I understood that the page width in Power BI, the pages don't really have any set width. They're all um, what is called as responsive design. So what it means is, if I resize my window, everything shrinks automatically, and if I expand it, it will expand it. So there is no fixed size for anything on the screen. Everything is just very fluid, but they all follow the 16 by 9 widescreen resolution by default. So the default option here is it's 1280 pixels wide, 1280, and then 720 here. So it's basically 720p. So if I size this box roughly 425 pixels, that will be like 1/3. You can go a little bit more precise. So if we set this width to 420, just to be a little short, that will be 1/3 of the thing. And then I can Control C, Control V. So we got three boxes like that. The middle box, we'll make it slightly bigger this way, because this is the decision box. I thought that will need to be bigger. So we'll select the first box and last box using Control, and then change the fill color to a dull color like that. We'll select the middle box and we'll make it something like this. Okay, and then you can select all of them, turn off the outlines on them, so there is no outline. And once these boxes are laid out, you can select everything using Control, and from the format ribbon, send them to back. So at this point they all go behind, and you get this nice little three box structure. You notice that as soon as you finish doing this, all of these cards, they were looking all right here, but now that they are on the box, they have this white color fill in them, which was not there earlier, but it's always there. We never realized it because this thing is white as well. But the moment you put another color, the white color shows through. If you want, you can leave it, or you can tweak it as well, which is what I did. I didn't really like the white color. I wanted it to look a bit different. So what I did is I selected all of them. Again, you can hold down the Control and multi-select. And once you select, you can go and disable the background, so there's no background on them. While we are there, I'm just gonna change the font family to this, and text size to maybe 32 points, so it's not too big, so that this looks a bit like that. And then depending on what the focus should be, here my focus, I wanted the focus to be here, so I've dulled the colors on this side so that the current position is faded into the background and only provided as a FYI. If we change, this is what is going to happen. So that's where the focus will be. And because the focus is primarily on the profitability, I wanted that to shine, so we added that color. So depending on how you want to narrate, you can change that. So for example, change the data label color, maybe that, so that they kind of blend in there. And then just align them. When you are aligning, another trick that you can use is you can select all of them, and from format, align. If you align distribute vertically, the spacing will be even between them. So this is another trick that you could use to line things up. And then you can add some text boxes on the top. Our present sales costs and profits are, and then just type that, move it, place it in the center, select everything, center align, and with a little bit of adjustment you should be able to see that. And then again disable the background on that so that this will come up like that. So once this is done, we repeat the process for this guy and that guy, and then that's pretty much how you should be able to convert that. Philip says, this was an excellently structured and organized live stream from concept to conclusion. Well done as always. Have fun and be awesome. Thank you, Philip. And it was good to have you on the stream as well. I know you come every month, so it's good to have few regulars like you show up and cheer for me. And this is from Akshay. Been following you from 2 years, learned a lot. Thanks for being such a nice teacher. Thank you so much, Akshay, and I wish you all the very best as well. Kim says it's awesome, and Liju says your website has helped me learn Excel better. Thank you, Liju. Thank you so much for learning from me. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you all enjoyed it. Feel free to download the completed workbook from the video description below, and then that should give you a clarity on if you are not sure exactly how a certain measure is set up or something. Feel free to check the DAX there and understand that. I'll stick around and see if there is any questions. Otherwise, I'll hang up after a few minutes. So let's see what this is. Babu asks, could you explain about multiple relationship with the duplicate value? I like the way of your explanation. Thank you, sir. Certainly, Babu. I don't want to do that explanation in this stream, so I'll probably add another video on that topic, because I think there's a couple of others who asked a similar question. I will answer that. Well, Power BI, it used to be the case that the only relationships that you could have in Power BI are one-to-one and one-to-many, but they have added many-to-many support a while ago. Even then, normally in kind of like 99% of business reporting situations, you never really use many-to-many relationships. So it's not something that that is natural or easy to model and build some outputs on. So you will always use an intermediate table to turn that many to many to many to one, and then one to many. So that's how, like most of the business reporting I've seen, that's pretty much how it is done. But I will add a video on this concept and I'll explain that. Moise says, thank you, sir, again for a great course. And yes, I will do regression analysis in Excel prior to migrating it into Power BI. You're welcome, Moise, and I wish you all the very best with that. Sanat says, can we do some example case on employee performance report? Sure. In fact, there's a couple of videos on the channel which talk about similar concept. um, so feel free to check them out as well. There's one on top 5 Excel tips for HR analysts, which is a live stream that I did 3 years ago, but it is similar to what I've shown here, and in uses Power Query and all of that. So yeah, check that out. And yeah, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for all the love and attention and all the nice messages that you've sent. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the stream, and I will see you all again in November live stream. For November, we are not going to actually do a topic live stream. It's going to be a Q&A live stream. This is simply because at the end of November we have Thanksgiving Day, and then at the end of December we have Christmas. So not that I celebrate Thanksgiving, but any holiday is an excuse to just chill out and not do work. So I'm a bit lazy like that, but I feel it's a good time for me to also not bother with setting up the stream and all. But I will do a Q&A live stream in the November last week, so that I can answer your questions and help you understand concepts better. Philip says, LinkedIn poll idea. What do you think of the topic, Chandu, on relationships? And Babu asks, could you make one more a video on DAX Studio? I would love to. So far I have not really used DAX Studio much. This is simply because I don't. I mean, I work a lot on Power BI, but I don't really work Power BI in a practical situations. More on a teaching situation really. So the models and the complexity in teaching situation tends to be a lot smaller than what happens in real life. This is because when you're teaching, you want to keep things, the details, simple, so that you can focus on concepts and delivery. But when you go into an organization and implement Power BI, that's when you will find having things like DAX Studio helpful to you. Because I'm not in that situation, even when I use DAX Studio, it becomes quite academic for me. So maybe I will add a video if and when I get a chance to actually use DAX Studio as part of my client work sometime, and then I'll develop more ideas on that. All right. Ashwin says, thank you so much, sir. You're welcome, Ashwin. And Sanat says, thanks for the live stream. Must be too late to bed for you. It's actually 6:47 in the morning for me. So I slept, I woke up, I did the stream, and now I go downstairs and relax while rest of the family wakes up, and we all have breakfast. um, so that's it. Someone is asking, are you on LinkedIn? Yes, I am on LinkedIn, but I'm not super active on most of the social media. So if you want to catch me or interact with me, YouTube is a good place. I do post occasionally on Twitter, so that's another place. But yeah, if you search on LinkedIn for Chandu, you will find our company page, and you can like it and follow. All right, that is all, friends. I hope you all enjoyed the live stream. Thank you so much for watching. And if you are watching and if you celebrate Diwali, then I wish you all a happy Diwali in advance. And I'll see you all again in November for live stream. And meanwhile, I'll see you again on the channels in some other videos or something else. Thank you, and bye bye.